Welcome back everybody to another lesson of the week. I hope that your spring break was still fun and enjoyable, even though I know we're going through a lot of different things with the lockdown situation, but I hope you're staying safe, you're eating well, you're taking care of yourself, taking a shower at some point, hopefully. I've also just been encouraged to reach out to some of you guys and hear what you've been up to, so please feel free to reach out to me. I love to hear what you've been up to. Also, I am also happy to continue with another story for this week of how we can see God just working through regular people who just choose to be obedient to Him, and how He is faithful in different life circumstances. And today we're going to talk about life interruptions. And in order to help with that, we're going to hear a little bit about our special guest of the week and what she's been up to.
Special guest.
Hi, I'm Elisa. Hi, guys. I miss you. Welcome to my house.
It's so nice to have Serena here with us today. And I have a question for Serena. Can you tell us a little bit of what you've been up to lately?
I'm home in Michigan with my family. I have 4 brothers and 2 sisters. This is one of my brothers, Abed.
Hi, I'm Abed, as you heard, and this is our dog, Bob.
Bob's pretty nice when he's in the right mood.
Naturally.
He's cute. Anyway, so for the majority of the time that I've been home and during all this crazy, I've been doing a lot of homework to occupy my time, and I've been reading and watching some movies with my family and sometimes eating all the baked goods my sister makes. But I would encourage you guys, take time to be with your family and don't be on your phone all of the time you're home, and I miss you guys.
Thank you for the update, Serena. For many of us, like Serena, we have been interrupted. Our lives have been changed. You may not be going to school and at some point you're like, man, I'm bored at this point. I don't get to see people. I'm ready to get out of the house. And you're maybe struggling a lot, and that is totally okay. I just know that I've been praying for you and I've been thinking about you. And that's why today I think the story is really important, because we're going to talk about life interruptions and how God is with us even in those hard times, and He never leaves us. Now, the story for today that we're going to be talking about is about these young men who are about your age, roughly like 15 and 20 years old. And these young guys, their life got completely interrupted. So these were young Jewish guys who lived in the time when the kingdom of Israel, Judah, got taken over by Babylon. And they wanted them to work in the king's court. So they're taken to a place of exile, away from their families, away from anything that they knew, and they will most likely never, ever come back. But they knew that there was a God that never left them, that was a constant in their lives, was the very same God that they believed in. And they chose in their hearts that no matter what land they go into, no matter what circumstances happen, they will stay loyal to God and trust Him in this life circumstances. So let's dive into this story about these brave young men that were taken captives into the strange land of Babylon. Now, these young men's names are a little bit complicated, but we will be talking about actually 4. So it's going to be Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Those are hard names, but I believe you guys can get it. Let's do it again. Daniel, you can know that one. That's not that hard. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Yay! So we're going to be talking about these young men, and we are just remembering once again that they were taken captives. They're in the kingdom of Babylon, where the king's name is Nebuchadnezzar. Another hard name, but you can do it again. King Nebuchadnezzar. Now, King Nebuchadnezzar decides this brilliant idea to create brilliant as in like not really, to create a gigantic image, golden image, so that everybody would worship and fall down over this image every time they hear some music playing. So he makes this gigantic image and wants everybody to worship it. Now remember, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and Daniel had decided that they were going to obey God no matter what. And so this is where it gets a little tricky, because there were some people in the province of Babylon that didn't like the Jews, that they didn't like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they snitch on them and they go to the king and say like, hey king, Look, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, these Jews, they have not been falling down to their knees and worshiping the gigantic image that you commanded to do. So the king actually became super furious, and he requested that they would come to him so he can question them. So now read with me in Daniel chapter 3, verses 14 through 18. Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you refuse to serve my gods or to worship the gold statue I have set up? I will give you one more chance to bow down and worship the statue I have made when you hear the sound of the musical instruments. But if you refuse, you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace, and then what God will be able to rescue you from my power?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up." That's very intense, and that is very brave to say to a king who can totally wipe you out in a hot second. He was not happy at all. He became even more furious, and he had this gigantic furnace. It's like really hot basic grill, like gigantic grill with fire, and he asked his servants to even make it 7 times hotter. And some people believe it's about like 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. That is really hot. And it was so hot that even the warriors that were chosen by the king to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the fire, they got killed because it was so hot to even just be around the furnace. But then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego got thrown into the fire. So now read with me in Daniel chapter 3, verses 25 to 29. "Look," Nebuchadnezzar shouted, "I see 4 men unbound walking around in the fire unharmed, and the 4th looks like a god." Then Nebuchadnezzar came as close as he could to the door of the flaming furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stepped out of the fire. Then the high officers, officials, governors, and advisors crowded around them and saw that the fire had not touched them. Not a hair on their heads was singed, and their clothing was not scorched. They didn't even smell of smoke. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, "Praise the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angel to rescue his servants who trusted in him. They defied the king's command and were willing to die rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I make this decree: if any people, whatever their race or nation or language, speak a word against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they will be torn limb from limb, and their houses will be turned into heaps of rubble. There is no other God who can rescue like this." There really isn't any other God who can rescue like this. So we see here an amazing miracle. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego should have been dead just by being and falling down into the furnace. And not only that, there appeared to be a 4th man, which there was never, like they had never thrown in an actual 4th man. It could have been an angel of God. Could have been God himself. But what we're trying to see here is that God was definitely involved in rescuing his servants, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and also rewarding them for their obedience, and also showing Nebuchadnezzar his power, his mighty power to save his servants. What can we learn about God? Well, even though they were no longer in the land of Israel, they were in a different land in Babylon. What was their constant? God. God keeps his promises to his people to never leave them nor forsake them. He remains with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and all the Jewish people, and we saw that even in the story of last week in Esther. He continued to be with them and rescue them even in lands that were not their own lands. Not only that, we see that he's a very powerful God, and he wants others to know him because he makes all these big miracles so that King Nebuchadnezzar and the whole land of Babylon may know that the God that these Jewish people worship is the true God. It's the powerful God. What else can we learn is that he gives strength and courage also to the people that choose to obey him. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had no fear to stand up to this. They probably did, but they knew that there was a more powerful God. And so this is the same God that gives them the strength and reminds them that he is with them no matter what. So what can we learn about man? As we see, King Nebuchadnezzar had a hard heart. He went on to make a gigantic image, and once again God shows his power to him, right? Not only that, we also see the obedience and loyalty of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and Daniel. That even when they were taken into captivity and into this strange land, they chose that they were going to be loyal to God first and to man second. So no matter what they were asked to do, they wouldn't do it if it disobeyed God. So I think that's very brave and very awesome from Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And now I want us to ask our special guest of the week, Serena. And I want to ask you, Serena, how has this story been impactful in your own life?
So the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, I think, has encouraged me and impacted me, because I've realized what they did to stand up to the king and to obey God, that would be really hard. And it's always shown me that I need to pray a lot and ask God to show me how to be like them. To stand up and say, I trust in God and I believe in God and I will do what he says. So their story has always been encouraging to me to stand up for what I believe in, to not be ashamed of it, and to trust God no matter what happens.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Serena, and thank you for being with us.
Bye guys, see you later. Oh boy, bye.
Now guys, we are in a season full of life interruptions. Heck, the whole world is full of interruptions right now because of this virus. And you may feel like you may be in this fiery furnace, like being lonely and being bored out of your mind, or feeling ignored by friends. You may be struggling with anxiety and fears, and you're seeing your family struggle, and all of this stuff is really real and really, really hard. And it's not something that we saw coming, really, or like not even able to be at ICI together and hang out. But I want to encourage you in this time that God is a God who's in the fire with us. He is a God who has never left us. This doesn't catch him by surprise. And he knows exactly that at the end of the day, he already has provided a way for you to not be going through the fiery furnace of hell. You know, it may sound a little gloomy to talk about, but yes, like hell is a real place. And that may be a question that we may have, especially in times like these where we keep hearing death and some people get healed but some don't. And at the end of the day, God already has provided a way for us not to be go through the fiery furnace of hell by providing his son Jesus Christ to die on the cross for you and pay the penalty of sin. And if you believe in him and if you trust him, just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego trusted in the God of the Bible, so are you invited. I invite you to trust the God of the Bible and believe that he died on the cross for you and he came back to life for you to know him and for you to experience his peace in this life full of interruption and in this time of anxiety, so you don't have to worry about what's going to happen to you after you die. Because ultimately we will die at some point, right? But you can have his peace, you can have this trust that no matter what happens here on this earth, you know who you're going to be with at the end of all of this. So if you have any more questions about this, these are true things. And if you're struggling, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to any other leader. And we would love to talk with you about it. So guys, remember, God is with you. He loves you. We love you and we miss you. And stay connected. Don't reach out to friends. Don't just keep by yourself, and know that you are prayed for. Okay? Stay safe. Love you guys.